Sunset of Time by a Biocorn. Chapter 24 Hope Forced in Flames of Doom. Half of Celestia's world was dark. Snow and wind blurred the other half. Still, Vesper never left her sight. A ring of light burst from Celestia's horn to broke into 10 separate balls of energy. They homed after Vesper, dodging her every flight pattern. Vesper spiraled through the air, weaving and looping to stay ahead of Celestia's light missiles. Vesper flipped over and returned fire. Black magic destroying 3 of the orbs. She just turned over again, flew low to the ground, and skipped off it, sending columns of stone up behind her. Several orbs crashed into the columns, reducing them to dust. Celestia flew through and launched a ball of fire to join her last 3 orbs. Vesper stood low to the ground, rapidly drawing closer to Frostlit's corpse. She traced a hoof on the ground. Large chunks of rock ripped from the earth and launched themselves towards Celestia. She ducked onto one and blasted through another before clipping her wing on the third. She hit the ground and rolled, popping up when her horn lit. Vesper used the last rock as a shield from Celestia's projectiles. Now she had a clear field. Celestia teleported, reappearing in Vesper's path. They slammed into each other, sailed over Frostlets and the ponies gathered around it, crashed to the hillside. Vesper scrambled to her host first, and made a lunge for the corpse. Celestia released a golden chain from her horn, peeling Vesper in the rear leg. The chain coiled itself around Vesper's calf. It reeled her back to Celestia. When Vesper drew close, she twisted around, smashed a hoof against Celestia's blind side. The gold chain severed, and Celestia flew to the right. Blood filled the inside of her mouth as her jaw was dislocated. She snapped it back into place with a flash of magic and spat the blood into the snow. With a powerful leap, she recovered the distance between herself and Vesper, who was now fighting off Rainbow Dash. Rainbow narrowly avoided a glob of magic and kicked Vesper in the face before darting away. Vesper aimed to shoot her down, but Spike sent a column of fire up her left leg. Boo! Vesper shrieked, shouting more annoyed than in pain. She rounded in Spike. Celestia intervened. She tackled Vesper again and teleported, arriving back near the mountain. You're wasting your time, Mother, Vesper said, throwing Celestia off. I know where they are now. The Frostlets' power is 1 teleport away! You're assuming I'll give you the opportunity. Another golden chain snaked from Celestia's horn and wrapped itself around Vesper's, linking them together. Celestia yanked and smashed her hoof into Vesper's face. She spiraled out of it until the chain snapped taut and reeled her back in. Celestia swung again, but Vesper caught it with the back of her foreleg. Vesper smiled, showcasing a mouth full of bloody teeth. Getting physical with me, Mother? Why, Celestia kicked Vesper's side, knocking the wind out of her. Vesper doubled over, unable to defend herself from Celestia's follow-up punch. She landed 2 more hits before Vesper recovered enough to block. Celestia increased her speed and her spell's grip on Vesper's horn. Vesper deftly blocked Celestia's blows and began to throw her own. She took advantage of Celestia's blind eye and constantly aimed for the left. Celestia's well-honed instincts kept Vesper from landing more than a few scrapes. Vesper yanked her head back, pulling on the chain and upsetting Celestia's balance. She tumbled through the air. Vesper uppercutted Celestia's throat. Celestia froze, hooves wrapped around her esophagus, begging to let her breathe again. All she could make were pitiful gasps while her eyes blurred with tears. Despite the pain, she kept her chain spell enforced. Vesper looped around and pinned her from behind. Opening her mouth wide, sucked her fangs to Celestia's neck. Celestia's scream was silent, but her entire body thrashed with Vesper's teeth dug deeper. Mother! Vesper exclaimed, coming up for breath. You taste absolutely... Celestia's roar drowned out the rest of Vesper's sentence. She channeled her anger into energy, and her celestial mind ignited into a wild blaze. Vesper screamed and let go, batting her wings to put out the fire and spread across her forelegs and chest. While Vesper flailed, Celestia took shaky gusts of air, coughing up blood on every exhale. She recovered, winded but still capable. Vesper put herself out, but the blisters erupted across her front and left leg was charred. Vesper panted, All right, Mother. As much as I love our intimacy, you're really starting to get on my nerves. She wildly flapped her wings, picking up a gale that formed into another blizzard. Celestia copied her, keeping the ice and snow away so she could keep her eyes on Vesper. The tempest funneled around them, growing increasingly violent. Stones and thick chunks of ice flew about, crossing over to the eye of the storm. With her one good eye focused on Vesper, Celestia couldn't follow the debris. A large rock struck her ear, breaking her concentration. Vesper tackled her through both of them in a soaring snowstorm. Celestia's world lost all direction as she spun about uncontrollably. Every time she tried to right herself, something would strike again. Till finally her horn took a hit and her magic died. When the throbbing stopped, Celestia teleported, landing her back when she reappeared by the frostlets. She rolled onto her hooves and paused at the sight in front of her. Fluttershy floated in front of Vesper. Eyes filled with intensity Celestia wasn't aware she possessed. Even more surprising was Vesper, who stood completely motionless, transfixed by Fluttershy's stare. What is? Celestia started to ask. Pinkie shouted, Don't question it! Just do something quick! Celestia regained her composure and nodded. Her sword appeared by her side. She stared up to Vesper. Son, Vesper Radiance, this is your end. No, Vesper growled between her teeth. For your crimes against Equestria, I hereby sentence you to death. No! Celestia closed her eyes and raised her sword. May you finally find peace. Vesper twitched, desperately struggling against Fluttershy's stare. No, no, no! Celestia plunged the sword into Vesper's heart, driving it deep. Her own heart screamed in agony. Screamed that no matter how good her intentions, she committed the most atrocious of acts, murdering family. Vesper strangled back, free from Fluttershy's stare. Celestia's sword still in her chest. No. Blood dribbled from the corners of her mouth. Her eyes grew unfocused. Please silence that, Celestia said, fighting to keep her voice controlled just a little longer. Go to sleep. No! White light flooded Vesper's eyes. Shockwave erupted from her horn, stuffing Celestia in the air to the top of the hill. Celestia jumped and threw herself backwards towards Vesper. She was too late. Vesper pressed her horn to her frostlit skull and screamed as inky blackness flowed from her horn and coursed through her body. She lifted her head and screamed again as the black substances covered everything. Celestia conjured a ball of pure light and threw it at Vesper and found its target, leaving behind only a cloud of smoke and snow. Celestia threw two more into the haze, determined to believe she had stopped Vesper in time. The smoke faded, and with it, Celestia's hopes. Vesper took a step forward. Her left leg reduced to bare bones. The remainder of her coat was the color of dried blood. Back into places where she had been burned. A halo of feathers lay in the snow. Her wings were now draconic, sporting black webbing in between the membranes of thick bones. For a moment, Vesper had no mane or tail. She opened her eyes. Two balls of fire floating in their sockets. Her mane and tail exploded forth. Passionate, wildfires that turned the snow into vapor. She wrapped her hoof around the sword and pulled it from her heart, blood still dripping from it. Vesper looked into her mouth and licked some of it off. She smacked her lips and tossed the sword back to Celestia, where it landed at her hooves. Celestia then looked at it, then at Vesper. You! Terror choked the words of the words from her. Vesper licked her lips again. So, shall we continue our dance, Mother? False! Twilight's voice rang through the Intermall's hall. The first treaty between the Zebras and Minotaurs wasn't signed until the 45th year of Celestia and Linna's role. Vesper wore an impassive face. She lounged across her throne, resting her head against a hoof, eyes half-lidded. She said nothing, choosing to serve Twilight for several long seconds. Perhaps they were minutes. For all Twilight knew, it could have been hours. Time was immutable here. She and Vesper had thrown questions back and forth at each other for so long, she'd forgotten when they had started this game. Neither had failed so far, and he had covered every topic, from history to alchemy, at least once. Twilight lit the sunset shadow, which was motionless at the foot of the dais. Twilight could still feel something calling out to her, a conscience still clinging to life. A last spark of hope. Actually, Twilight, what you're feeling is Sunset being bored. Bored? Bored. Come on, Twilight, save me already! She would not lose this game. No matter how long it took, no matter how many questions she had to answer, she wouldn't lose. Twilight's hardened stare intensified, challenging Vesper to tell her she was wrong. Vesper eased into a smile. Correct again, Twilight. Twilight breathed a small sigh of relief and unlocked her knees, unaware of how rigidly she had been standing. My turn, then. Vesper stretched her legs out and giggled softly. You know, Twilight, this is the most fun I ever had. Her smile revealed a row of sharp teeth. Having you as an intellectual rival, why, I imagine this is almost what having a friend is like. She raised the hoof to her lips. You could just stay here forever, you know. You and I, battling it out until the end of time. She broke into a bone-chilling laugh, but it didn't sound right coming out of Sunset's mouth. Twilight waited for her to finish, then said, I have more important things to do to boost your ego, Vesper. Like what? Rescue those miserable friends of yours. She waved to Hoof. Please, they're all probably dead by now. I believe in them. Vesper stuck her tongue out. Spare me your sentimentality, please. Just take your turn. Twilight paced along the carpet. Every question meant the stumped Vesper had been answered with ease. She knew more about obscure unicorn history, griffin culture, and zebra tribal rituals. There had to be something Vesper didn't know, some fact or figure that Twilight would give leverage. Tick-tock, Twilight. Vesper sang, Do I need to remind you whose life is at stake? Twilight bared her teeth. She turned away from the throne. Come on, Twilight, you can do this. Thinking is what you do best. Outthink her! Her ears pricked. She spun a hoof and pointed at Vesper. At the Battle of Van Hoover, during the Elk War, what strategy did General Grey Wall use to capture the city? Vesper sat her tail, looking impressed. Oh, good question, Twilight. This one I might actually have to put some thought into. Twilight allowed herself to smile. If I didn't already know it was a trick question. Twilight's mouth fell open. Vesper clapped her hooves and laughed. That's right. General Grey Wall didn't come up with the winning strategy. He didn't even want to be at the battle. He thought Van Hoover was a lost cause, so he had his lieutenant, Tintersnap, come up with the strategy. Tintersnap, only get a ponyfic, people! Only get a ponyfic! Waited until high noon to attack, then had the Pegasi fly out to the sun to attack the blockade to the north side. Meanwhile, the Earth Ponies attacked from the east. The Unicorns attacked their exposed south side. This later became known as the Equestrian Crescent Maneuver. Of course, Grey Wall took all the credit. A piece of hair stuck out of place of Twilight's mane. She pressed it back down and took a very long, calming breath. She screamed internally. You're not getting frustrated, are you, Twilight? Vesper asked, I mean, it's okay if you want to admit I'm superior to you. It'll save us some time. Never! Twilight warned. Vesper shrugged. Suit yourself. Just remember, I've offered you the easy way out. She stood tall on her throne. How many enchanted items did Meadowsong have? Twilight bit her tongue. 9? No, 8. Definitely 8. 8! Vesper smirked. Name them. Another piece of Twilight's mane broke free. I can't remember. Too bad then. Vesper's horn took on a crimson glow. Question, Vesper. Which 8 items are we talking about? Because, I created 2 sets now. There's a set for Shooting Stars and a set for Fall of Starfleet. I mean, it could be either one of those sets. Well, which one are we talking about? Because I can name them. The Armor of Invincibility, the Wings of Lightning, the Sword of the Quick, the Medallion of Dragon Companionship, the Trihorn Crown, the Orb of Reality, and the Staff of Null. Oh, and the Ring of Fear, which is not an evil item! Sorry, that had to be said. Every instinct in Twilight's body told her to block, to dodge, to do something to repel the attack coming towards her. But she obeyed the rules she had agreed to. She closed her eyes and braced herself. Burning, searing pain went through her, stealing her breath away. She was up in the air, hearing her own screams call against her ears. White-hot needles pressed themselves to every inch of her body, piercing through her muscles and her bones. It's not real! Twilight tried to tell herself. It's all just mental! She hit the floor, gasping for breath like she had never tasted it before. If it wasn't real, then why did it hurt so much? Her coughs dissolved into ragged wheezes, threatening to make her retch. She struggled to swallow down air between each one. Her wheezing fit subsided. She heard soft clapping from above. All it took of her will, but Twilight lifted her head to see Vesper looming over her. Amazing. That was the most significant scream I've heard yet. And you're still alive, too. You really are full of surprises, aren't you, princess? She turned to walk back to the base of the throne. Well, that means I had the pleasure of making you scream again. But to be fair, it's your turn. If you can talk, that is. Not done. Have to get up. Twilight wiggled a hoof. It was slow and heavy. He didn't belong to her body. She pressed on anyway, leaving each hoof until the feeling came back. She slowly rose from the floor, falling several times before she could at least get herself into the same position. Won't let her win. I'll save you, Sunset. You're my friend, my student. Twilight's head nodded to one side. Her fist flickered. She bolted up and gave a powerful shake. Come on, you can do this. Think. What's something you know that she doesn't? You have to have something over her. Is it wrong that I find this more interesting than the Celestia fight, and I find the main 5 fight versus the Dragolets more interesting than the Celestia battle? I'm sorry, I just do. My apologies. It hit Twilight harder than any spell. The answer had been right in front of her the entire time. She touched upon it with her first question. Vesper may know what the virtues of friendship are, but she didn't know about friendship. When, Twilight started to speak, she ran her tongue across her teeth and tried again. When a friend is being proud and stubborn, but desperately needs help, what do you do? For the first time, Vesper looked completely stunned. What? You heard me. Twilight raised her head and smirked. Your friend is proud and doesn't want to accept help. Even when she really needs it, what do you do? Vesper shook her head, her confusion turning to anger. This is a hypothetical scenario. This doesn't count! You never said it didn't. It's a question. It has an answer. One that can be learned, just not from any book. Twilight's smirk grew into a full-blown smile. I don't... Vesper snored. Fine! I don't know! Take your best shot. I doubt you'll do any real damage. Twilight rose to her hooves. That's where you belong. Magic coursed through her veins, soothing the blistering pain before gathering at the tip of her horn. Her aura bathed the world around her in brilliant lavender light. She aimed her horn at Vesper and took pleasure at the look of fear in her eyes. Twilight recoiled from the force of her spell, landing her flank again. Vesper screamed tore through the throne room. Twilight looked up in time to see her smash into the ornamented chair, cracking it in half and continued on the wall. Vesper collapsed on the floor, where she remained motionless for several seconds. She twitched, her moans of pain carrying growls. She rose and climbed back over the dais, her face decorated with a hateful scowl and narrowed eyes. Okay, princess. Playtime is officially over. I'm going to bring this game to a close and erase your fairy soul. She said quietly, You and Replica can enjoy Oblivion together! She pressed her silver mane from in front of her face. Name all the requirements for a proper necromancy ceremony. I paled. I never even studied dark magic. Vesper smiled. I thought so. She charged her horn and fired. The blast hit Twilight's chest, sending her across the room, skipping against the floor. The white-hot needles returned, stabbing her entire being. Her vision blacked out. For a moment, she forgot who she was, where she was, and why she was here in the first place. Then there was the voice again, urging her not to give up. Twilight's vision returned, as did her memory, though her body's response time was still slow. It took her over a minute just to get into the same position again. Oddly enough, she found she wasn't bleeding. She wasn't even bruised. Her feathers were out of place and her mane was a mess. She didn't show any signs of being blasted twice by concussive magic. Maybe Vesper's right. This is just an avatar for my soul, so if he hits me hard enough. Twilight shook her head. It was her turn now. Vesper would get the answer wrong, and Twilight would pour everything into this last shot. How do you defend your friends not to judge some point on how they look? I don't know! Vesper snapped. Just stop being stupid! Wrong! Twilight planted herself firmly against the floor. Her horn glowed brighter than before, her eyes disappearing within pools of magic. The energy roared in her ears, demanding to be unleashed. And Twilight obliged, hurling her spell at Vesper. The explosion rocked the room, destroying the entire brick wall and sending a wave of dust. Twilight laid on her stomach, too weak to attempt to wave it away. She gagged, and saw thick clouds spinning up pieces of rubble and carpet. When it cleared, Twilight was relieved to see Sunset Shao still unharmed. A hoof twitched, giving Twilight enough hope to stand up again, with wobbly, uneven footsteps. And she crossed the room. Sunset? Sunset, can you hear me? I can hear you. Just fine! Twilight froze halfway into the dais. From the mountain of rubble behind it, a hoof rose into the air. The rest of Vesper quickly followed behind it. She climbed to the top of the rubble, heaving for air, eyes wide but her pupils almost non-existent. Perhaps it was the light from the bloody sun, but for a few seconds Vesper looked incorporeal. You will not best me again, Twilight Sparkle. I will not allow it! Her pupils completely vanished behind a veil of magic, her horn glowing a sinister crimson. Who wrote the first book on black magic? Twilight swallowed, bracing herself again. Obsidian! Wrong! Vesper fired. The pain was indescribable. Twilight couldn't even hear herself scream over the earth-shattering din. She knew her existence was being ripped apart. It took every shred of willpower she had remaining not to give up. She hit the wall and crumpled to the floor, struggling to breathe. She won't give up. Won't lose! Vesper closed the gap between them, limping every other step. You got 5 seconds to ask me a question, princess! Twilight tried to work her mouth, but no sound came. She wasn't sure she had a mouth. All she could do was glare defiantly at Vesper. Time's up! Vesper charged her horn again. When is Celestia's real birthday? She growled. Twilight involuntarily whined. She never asked Celestia. She assumed the holiday named after her was it. 3, 2, 1! Vesper released her spell into point-blank range, firing Twilight to the floor. Scream Richard to Twilight's strongest to burning magic. She rolled into her back, vision completely gone, thoughts fading away. Why did she pick you over me? Vesper shot Twilight again, keeping her pinned to the floor. Twilight struggled for breath. I don't! Why did she make you a princess? Twilight screamed, the dark magic tearing her apart piece by piece. Why doesn't she love me? Both she and Vesper panted. Smoke curled from Vesper's horn, intertwined with the smoke rising off of Twilight's body. Why won't you fade away? Vesper yelled. She threw her head back and magic charged again. No, can't lose. Can't give up. Twilight clung to the light in front of her. Vesper would not break her. Vesper screamed somewhere over her. Twilight couldn't see, but she heard a familiar voice, faint and trembling, but full of conviction. What do you do when you have a choice of destiny? You pick either saving yourself or saving the world. Which do you choose? Save myself, of course, Vesper shouted. Wrong! A blast of magic, another scream. I choose my friends! The darkness crawled away from Twilight's eyes. Vesper had her back to Twilight and was holding herself up with only one leg. Across from her was Sunset, more than Seshao. She was flickering in and out like a ghost, but all her details were still there. Teal eyes shone and resolved. Why? Vesper breathed. Why are you still standing? She looked back at Twilight. Why are you both still here? Sunset took a step forward. Because Twilight refused to give up on me. Twilight stood up, her soul filling with light. And because Sunset refused to give up on me. Vesper looked between them, mouth slightly ajar, eyes flooded with defeat. She dropped her gaze to the floor. Why? Because, Sunset charged her horn. Twilight followed suit. Blue and purple collided against Vesper from both sides and bathed the throne room into a magnificent aura. Friendship is magic! Oh, that was unbelievably awesome or unbelievably cheesy? She's awesome, I guess. Yeah, she's awesome. It was quiet. Not outside. Outside, Sunset could hear Twilight soft breathing next to her and the rumble and howling winds from a battle above. No, it was quiet inside her mind, inside her soul. She's gone. Oh, look at that. Sunset fell asleep next to Twilight, cuddling. If the world wasn't about to end in a horrifying battle of blood and zombies, this would be a ship moment. Sunset opened her eyes. Twilight's sleeping face grated at her. Sunset smiled, tears running down her face. She couldn't think of a better way to wake up. Twilight stirred, flaring her eyes open. Sunset? Sunset nodded. Yeah, it's me. She rolled onto her back and closed her eyes. Just me. She welcomed the blissful silence, reveled in the emotions that belonged slowly to her. Twilight got up and held a hoof out to Sunset. She took it and was pulled into a tight hug, wincing as Twilight squeezed a sore spot on her back. Sorry, Twilight said, hearing Sunset hiss in discomfort. No, it's okay. Sunset leaned into the hug and rested her head on Twilight's shoulder. If anything, I should be apologizing to you. You don't have to. No, I do. Sunset pulled away and looked Twilight in the eye. I should never have said that I hated you. I was just mad and scared, and I just wanted somebody to blame. Hey, Raider, could you disagree with me here? Oh, no, Sunset, do go on. This is your dishwashing liquid. You suck in it. But you never meant to do this to me. You never had any ill will. You were my friend the entire time. Never so doubted that. If I hadn't, I would never have lost control. She stepped back and bowed. I'm sorry, Princess. Can you forgive me? Twilight brushed her tears away. No, Sunset. I can't. Sunset stiffened. Twilight placed a hoof under Sunset's chin. I told you already. I was never mad. I can't forgive you. Because you have nothing to apologize for. Nope. Not gonna make a ship joke. Nope. Tears spilled from her eyes as Sunset fought to keep her voice even. I heard you. While you were fighting for me, I could still hear you. I was floating into darkness, drowning in it. But I could hear your voice. You were the reason I chose not to give up. You were my hope, Twilight. Twilight gave her a watery smile. It quickly broke. Twilight flung her arms around Sunset, her entire body quivering. Are you still going to disappear? Please tell me you're not. I don't know, Sunset whispered. She ran a hoof through Twilight's mane. Okay, that's it! You two kiss, right now! I'm done. Nope, this is officially ship territory. She's not in here anymore. I don't feel her presence at all, but I'm still a product of circumstance. I was still made because of what happened to Vesper. That changes. I don't want you to go, Twilight sobbed. I already lost you once. I can't do it again. I can't lose any of you. Yes. Sunset's heart twisted in her chest. I don't want to go either, Twilight, but I'm not afraid anymore. I've seen what you're going to do. How you and the girls and Spike are going to make the world a better place. If my destiny is to make sure you'll all get there safely, okay, just you and the girls, Spike can go buzz off. Then I'm willing to do whatever it takes. She let go of Twilight and stood up. You know, she looked at the 8 rays on her flank. I used to think that this meant my special talent was harnessing the power of the sun. But it's more than that. It's not just the power, but what I do with it. Twilight wiped her eyes. What do you mean? Well, it's kind of like fire. Fire can drive away darkness, make the shadows look larger than they really are. It gives us warmth and protection, burns everything around it to ash. The red and gold dualities are a cutie mark classed against one another. Sunset continued. My special talent is similar. I can use it to increase my magic to dangerous levels. Her eyes now moved to Twilight. To attack hatred or defend in love. You already saw what Vesper wants to do with all the power she has. She wants a sword and strike the entire world down. Sunset straightened her back and raised her head. Well, if she wants to be a sword, then I'll be a shield. I choose to use my powers to keep everyone safe. She won't break me again. She won't get past Sunset. She won't get past us. All of us together. We'll win, and then... She gave Sunset one more pleading look. Sunset smiled. We'll see. She placed a hoof over Twilight's heart. Whatever happens, just remember, I'll always be right here. Always. No matter what. Your friends will always be there. You taught me that. Guess I'm better teaching than I thought. The best. You're the best student I could ask for, Sunset. They both bowed their heads, the tips of their horns touching. Warm magic flowed across Sunset. the warmest he ever felt. The world twisted around him, and he vanished from the hall. Sunset was ready for whatever came next. She would stare oblivion down in the face as she had to, and she would not flinch. Celestia was afraid. More than that, she was horrified. The monster in front of her laughed again, reveled in it. Celestia hit Vesper with her strongest magical attacks. Vesper took them and then asked for more. She bled, but I didn't care. Her bones broke, but she snapped them back together like nothing had happened. Her skin tore. It's the only reason she healed it. Celestia thought was to keep some dignified appearance. Celestia had dragged Vesper away from the element bearers. An easier react than she had feared thanks to Vesper's obsession with her. The two alicorns now floated over the turning sea of clouds, illuminated by the setting sun. Celestia's augmented sun powers had proven to be of little help. She doubled over, the toll of her dramatic outpouring of magic taking its effect. Immortal princess or not, she could not deny the fact she was getting along in years. It was a little rusty at fighting. "Oh, what's the matter, Mommy? You're not tired, are you?" Vesper's distorted voice rose above the wind. Celestia straightened up and hid amongst their most determined expression. "How do I beat something that cannot die? I know what the future that exists using the elements of harmony, but she cannot die or be imprisoned. How else can I beat her?" There had to be a solution. "I got one. You fly up into space, get her to follow you into the sun, and then slam her into the sun. Or kick her face into a black hole. It's called the car solution. Cheap, I know, but it works." There was always a solution. Celestia looked at the sun hovering behind Vesper. The warm light embraced Celestia as she charged her horn. Vesper was immortal, not invincible. Bathed in a golden aura, Celestia charged. Vesper flew to meet her, only to pass through a misty image. Celestia released a vaporizing ray from behind. Or, we cut up her body, cut it to pieces, take each limb and body part, put it into a box, mail it to different lords, have them bury the boxes, and then forget about it. And you're rich, so you don't have to worry about paying postage. Celestia released a vaporizing ray from behind, blasting another hole in Vesper's wing. She hissed and lost altitude, skimming the clouds as she regained balance. Celestia jerked her head. Icy thorns sprouted from the black clouds. Vesper dodged and rolled, grazed by many of the thorns from teleporting. Celestia was ready when Vesper reappeared. 3 sickles of hot magic blew from her horn and attacked Vesper with 3 sides, only to pass through an illusion. Metal clashed against Celestia's skull, and her vision peered in and out while she fell. The rest of the cold, moist clouds snapped her from her daze. She loosed a barrage of light spells from beneath her cover. Emerging from the veil, Celestia located Vesper and bombarded her with a wave of scarlet heat. Vesper opened her mouth and roared, emitting a flamethrower of her own. 2 fires collided, releasing a ripple of blistering heat. Sweat poured down Celestia's face. Her being burned with the intensity of the sun. "This is it. I'll turn her ass. Plain and simple. There will be no recovery from that." The fire's intensity increased, forming blisters across Celestia's skin. Above her, Vesper blew hellfire, burning brighter than the fire in her sockets. Neither refused to give in, and the sky blinded into a crimson stream of fire. A black spear formed at the tip of Vesper's horn. Celestia's eyes widened. She watched it rocket toward her down to calm a fire. She wrapped herself in her shield, in time for both the spell and the fire to collide. The explosion broke her shield, catapulting her down into the storm. Static electricity rubbed against her coat. The temperature around her dramatically spiked. Celestia tried to right herself, but could not outmove the lightning. It hit her from every side, electrifying every inch of her body. It lasted only a second, but it was the longest second in Celestia's life. After the initial, all-encompassing burning sensation, Celestia was numb. She fell to the earth, unable to move, unable to save herself. She landed on her foreleg. Though she was still numb, she knew she had broken in at least 3 different places. Shadowy tendrils rose from the ground and wrapped around her, lifting her up into the air as Vesper descended. She landed in front of Celestia, eye level to her. So, Vesper leaned in and planted a tender kiss on Celestia's lips. This is the end, Mother. Any final requests? Celestia wheezed, struggling to draw air. Please spare them. Her good eye flickered to the horizon. Spare their lives. Throw all your hate to me. Vesper stared, then broke into laughter. Even in your final moments, you try to defend someone else. She nestled Celestia's neck. That's why I love you, Mother. You're so perfect. But I'm afraid I must deny your request. They've been thorns in my side for far too long. Crimson sword appeared. She leveled it at Celestia's breast. Now you'll be mine forever. She drew back. Goodbye, Mother. A pink poofy object crashed at Vesper's side, quickly followed by a rainbow and several large rocks. Vesper flew to the ground, losing her concentration, leaving Celestia to fall into the snow. Rainbow Dash, Pinkie Pie, and Rarity gathered in front of her, facing Vesper with rigid determination. Celestia's attempts to move only resulted in a brief spasm. Girls, please, you must leave. No way! Rainbow shook her head. We're not leaving you behind, Princess. Equestria still needs you. It needs you more than I. Rarity leveled another rock towards Vesper. Sorry, Your Majesty, but our minds are made up. That's hilarious! Vesper looked between them. You think you can save her? You worthless lesser beings! Rainbow flared her wings. We'll die trying. Okay. Vesper conjured a spear of fire. More tears ran down Celestia's cheeks. Forgive me, Twilight. I have failed our friends. Forgive me, Luna. We must be separated again. The heat grew intense. A ball of fire, large enough to swallow them all. Celestia refused to look away. After a millennia of living, she did not fear death. The fire collided against the purple and teal shield, stirring against it. Before it being pushed back, Vesper screeched in indignation, while Rarity, Rainbow, and Pinkie cheered. Straightening her neck, Celestia looked beyond Vesper to the two approaching ponies. Leave our friends alone! So, Celestia. I know. How does it feel to? I know. So, your point was absolutely none. Do you guys see why I sometimes just miss putting gods in? At best, unless it's a story revolving around them, at best, they steal the show. At worst, they're just gonna get their butts handed to them until the real heroes kick in. So, remember this important lesson, everyone. If you have something like Celestia and Luna, don't send them out to the front lines where our heroes are doing battle. Have them do something that's just as important and just as cool in the background. For example, I had Celestia fight Sombra at Canterlot. This was a very important thing, as it actually took care of the smoke monsters, while Luna was busy fighting in 3 different places at once. She was still useful, but the focus was on the real heroes of the Knights of Harmony, plus Team Umbra Circle. You can have Celestia and Luna fight, just give them worthy opponents. Like, you could have switched this up with Celestia fighting down to Frost Lich. You could have switched this up with having Celestia do something else for a bit. But instead, we all knew this was coming. It's kind of a lose-lose situation. The sun swarm blossomed beside sunset. She fired a spell that hit Vesper right between the eyes. Vesper howled and retreated to the air. Replica! You filthy, lying brat! How dare you side with them! Sunset looked up with a proud smile. I'm not your replica, Vesper Radiance. I will no longer live in your shadow. I am Sunset Shimmer, faithful steward to Princess Twilight Sparkle. That is my past, present, and future. She got Twilight's eye and her smile broadened. Miserable creature, your future is death! Then that is a choice I will make. Vesper roared, loud and primal. If you want to die, then I'll be happy to assist you! I'll help all of you to your deaths! I'm the only one that gets to live! Ha! She died for sunset and twilight, spewing fire from her mouth. Okay, class, I think we're now at the final battle time, so, anybody want to play It's Not My Time, or something cool from Skillet? There's a few songs from there. Both girls rolled out of the way. Sunset returned fire while Twilight yelled to Rainbow in the airs. Take the princess away from here, quick! But Twilight, we want help! Pinkie protested. Sunset cast a wide shield as Vesper veered around and fired again. Good to see you tomorrow. That'd be a big help. Rainbow looked ready to protest, but the explosion against Sunset's shield wiped the rebellion from her face. She hugged Celestia around the middle and flew off with her, Pinkie and Rarity in tow. Vesper jumped over her Sunset shield and aimed at him. You're not escaping that easily! A purple net snagged Vesper and pinned her to the ground. The more she thrashed about, the more the net shrank. Twilight and Sunset released the barrage of magic against her, neither laying up until there was a cloud of smoke in Vesper's place. Sunset paused to catch her breath until she realized she didn't need to breathe anymore. Twilight straightened up and took a few short pants. Do you think we... A fiery whip sprang from the smoke, and Twilight pushed herself in the air, while Sunset ducked as low as she could, remaining grazed by the fire. Vesper rushed forth, bruised and battered but far from beaten. She drew a black sickle at Twilight, who teleported just before it cut through her. Vesper turned to Sunset and yelled, releasing a shower of black energy. Sunset covered herself with her shield and withstood the blast, until Vesper appeared before her and kicked her sky high, shield and all. At the peak of her flight, Vesper appeared again and smashed Sunset down, breaking her shield. While Sunset fell, Vesper threw several more beams at her. Streams of purple flew past her, colliding with the black magic, nullifying them. Twilight sprung into the air and caught Sunset. Wings beat hard and fast, trying to support their combined weight. He finally gave out. The two crashed to the snow. The ground quaked. A spear of stone burst forth an inch from Twilight's head. She rolled over as one sprung up, then lifted her hose and shot at Vesper. Vesper retaliated, her black energy overpowering Twilight's and pushing it back to her horn. Sunset tapped into the sun and hurled a massive fireball at Vesper, striking her side. The attack was enough to disrupt Vesper's attack, like Twilight defends hers. The damage was minimal, but Vesper bellowed with rage, remained violent, blowing around her. You can't beat me. I am superior. I am an alicorn. I am immortal! Black energy shot up her horn as he blasted the ground in front of them. Despite Twilight's shield, both she and Sunset flew into the air. Vesper tackled Sunset and threw her to the ground. She slid across the snow before she was greeted with an explosion of magic across her back, catapulting her through the air again. She landed hard, seasonally gasping for breath. Okay, a dead or not, pain is still a factor, Sunset said as she rose. She turned to the sound of wing beats. Vesper touched down 100 feet behind her. I hate all of them! Truly I do. But as I look at you, I realize I hate you the most! I'm honored. Vesper brightened her fangs. Why would you forsake your birthright for them? Sunset laughed softly. Because I love them. Love will win you nothing in the end! We'll see. Sunset leaned forward, running her hoof through the snow. Vesper raised her eyebrow. You're kidding. You're kidding, right? Sunset charged, horn glowing bright and the sun burning in her chest. Vesper battled towards her, black smoke clinging to the corners of her eyes. 10 feet from Vesper, Sunset teleported. Vesper skated to a stop, while Sunset reappeared behind her, summoning an ethereal bow. The burning arrow flew as Vesper turned around and pierced a hole in her heart, carrying it open further. She howled in pain and kneeled over. Sunset knelt as well, feeling a fire burn her insides. As she caught the smoke, an idea came to her. Desperate and crazy, and potentially gambling with the fate of the entire world. But if it worked, Vesper and the Dark Regalia would be gone for good. Vesper stood up and was knocked down by Purple Energy's spear. Twilight hit her again before landing by Sunset's side. I think everyone should be safe as long as we keep her over here. Sunset nodded. Great. Where are they? South, a few hills over. Perfect. Sunset held onto Twilight and teleported, reappearing in front of startled Fluttershy. Twilight! She gasped. Sunset, you're a king. Sunset! Twilight said with eyes of concern. Why did you take us back here? I have a plan. So he looked around at everyone, all looking worse for wear. But I need you all to trust me. A short tremor cut through the response. Vesper learned from the top of the hill, grinning broadly. Oh, good. You're all here. Now I can kill you all at once. Every opportunity you had to kill us, you failed. Sunset shouted. Face it. Even with your magic, we've got something stronger. Are you on about friendship again? It's the one magic you never understood. The one reason you've never reached your full potential. Vesper stomped the ground. I don't need friends. They all abandoned you in the end. Every pony abandons you in the end. Even my mother! But my magic will make you all love me. You all kneel before me! Sunset shook her head. You'll never force us to bow. Vesper floated in the air. We'll see. Over her head, a dark spear, dark red core appeared, stunning, going bigger. Twilight gasped and took aim, but Sunset held a hoof out. No matter how much magic you put into that attack, it won't be enough, Sunset called. I control the sun! Prove it. Rainbow tapped a hoof at Sunset's shoulder. What are you doing? You need to stop egging her on! Sunset looked at her calmly. Please trust me. Stay close. The other saying look of apprehension on her knees. Twilight moved first, playing a hoof on Sunset's shoulder. I trust you. Celestia hobbled forward, limping on her 3 good legs. She smiled down at Sunset. As do I. They all gathered close, pressing against one another. Rainbow still looked unsure, but she still right above Sunset. If we die, this is all your fault. Sunset laughed. Duly noted. Vesper screeched, the black smoke around her eyes turning white. Are you mocking me? How dare you mock me? I am your queen. You're a spoiled child demanding attention, Sunset yelled. Celestia loved you, but that was never enough. You wanted a crown to go with it. Like I would prove to you how much she loved you. Now you have neither her love nor a crown. What you wear is fake, like your magic. Vesper's scream shook at the entire mountain rage. Rocks rose from the ground and floated up into the spear of darkness. Smoke poured out all the open wounds on Vesper's body. Damn you, replica! The spear grew larger. Damn you, Twilight Sparkle! It doubled in size. Damn you, mother! The spear pulsed. Damn you all to the Tyrus! Vesper yelled over the howling wind. The ground beneath her cracked. Red lightning flashed across the black sky. Sunset felt the heat radiating from Vesper, stronger than the desert sun. She powered her own horn. You're forgetting the first rule of your special talent, Vesper. Loud cracks broke over the din as red light poured every jewel into dark regalia. Jagged lines ran down their sares, splitting out until they resembled a spider web. Light intensified. The jewels exploded in a shower of ruby shrapnel. Their trembling stopped. The winds dulled. The thunder and lightning died away. Vesper hovered lightlessly underneath her black ball. The only sounds she made were small choking noises. Patches of fur burst into flame, spreading across her entire body. Vesper extended a hoof down to Celestia. The hoof guard fell off, revealing crumbling ash. Her mouth open, pouring out a column of smoke. Last breath, she uttered a single word. Mother. The fire consumed the rest of Vesper Reyes' body, turning it to ash, scattering it into the wind. The broken regalia fell to earth, cold and inert. The black spear trembled and whined, pulsing with uneven rhythms. Sunset closed her eyes. She reached for the sun one last time, letting the light spread through her. A white shield spread over her and her friends. She felt them all hugged tightly against her, their hearts beating in sync as the spear exploded outward. Mina. Arigato. Okay, I'll do it in English. Everyone, thank you.